How many stories have you heard about 2016 Trump voters or former Republicans now deciding to go and vote for Joe Biden or support the Democrats? I'll be honest. I've heard a couple, not personally, though. It's typically just, media buys or the Democrats putting out a message. It doesn't seem to be a consistent theme. We do, however, see the walk away campaign, which is encouraging people to leave the left. And we're seeing many people leave the Democratic Party and join the Republican Party. And according to Axios, voter registrations among Republicans are up, closing the gap between Republicans and Democrats, not because of new voters, but because Democrats are quitting the party and joining the Republican Party. Now, we all heard about Jeff Van Drew, one of the highest profile instances of a Democrat quitting and becoming a Republican. And there have been many stories about smaller town jurisdictions and county officials who have been switching from Democrat to Republican. And often these stories get overlooked. And I think the reason is videos like mine often focus on national level politics. But I couldn't help but notice there seems to be a grassroots trend. When I look at the voting data, registration data from Axios, I had to wonder about local officials. And sure enough, stories are popping up about sheriffs, sheriff departments, councilmen in small towns and county officials, all switching from Democrat to Republican. Now, it's hard to know if this is just because we're focused on it. Maybe the Democrats aren't publicizing the fact that Republicans are joining them, but I don't think that's true. I mean, they tried to. At the DNC, they ran all of these testimonials from never Trumper old people who are like, I voted for Trump and I regret it. But I don't believe Trump-gret is a real thing. That's what they call it, Trump-gret, like regret and Trump. It's kind of dumb. So I'll tell you what. I know a lot of people who voted for Trump in 2016. Some of them are unhappy with Trump, but still committed to voting for him. That's about the closest I've seen to that phenomenon of people like quitting Trump. I've not seen anybody quit, the Trump train or anything like that. But I'll tell you this. Many people that I know personally who voted for Hillary or Bernie back in 2016 have switched for Donald Trump. That says to me that anecdotally, I see this happening. And then in the news, we see more and more stories about this happening. But what does this mean when the polls consistently favor Joe Biden? It's like what the media is saying is totally detached from reality. Now, first and foremost, the polls are insanely broken. I swear, go look at the RCP average for Trump, and it's like Trump +4, Trump -16, Trump +2, Trump -8. And I'm like, wait, who are they polling? That their polling is just so wild and out of touch. No one has any idea who's going to win. And part of me wonders, considering we've seen the media actually try and support Joe Biden. I mean, come on, they're overtly supporting the guy. They cheated for Hillary Clinton last time. I wonder how much of this is lies, desperately trying to convince us Trump can't win all over again. But we can see it every step of the way. I'm going to take you down to Indiana. Some small town jurisdictions where individuals have jumped ship, and guess what they're saying? It basically sounds like they're Dave Rubin. No joke. They're like, I'm leaving the left, they're saying, I didn't leave the left left me. The Democratic Party has gone too far left. It sounds just like everything we have heard from so many different people. They lie about Donald Trump. It's not true. The media is frustrating and people don't trust them anymore. And the Democratic Party is negotiating with and embracing, these violent far left extremists. We see the videos of them going around. The internet is a thing. But for some reason, they think we just don't. Truth be told, there are a lot of people who just watch mainstream news and are still trapped in that bubble. But the rest of us who have kind of graduated to doing our own research, watching videos online, we're now saying, hey, wait a minute, something's not right. And then people are getting fed up because sooner or later, the far left narrative breaks into the mainstream, like defund the police. And what do you think a sheriff is going to say when he hears that? He's like, no way, man. I like my job and I like getting paid. I'm going to go vote for the Republican from now on, right? That's what's happening. Well, sure enough, we have another poll coming out from CBS showing that people, when it comes to COVID, trust Trump more than they trust the press. And this is an ongoing theme. People do not trust the media anymore. Considering the polls, I think Trump is going to win. But that's probably why we're seeing all this weird, vote by mail fiasco stuff happening. The weird scandals. There's like a weird story about a truck dumping a bunch of mail in like the back of a parking lot or something. Yeah, creepy stuff going on. It seems like the Democrats are playing dirty games because they know they're going to lose, and the media trying to defend them. Let's read some of these stories before we get started. head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's many ways you can support me. There's a P.O. box if you'd like to send me stuff. The best thing you can do, share this video. I do not have a large marketing department like these big networks do. I just have word of mouth. So if you think I'm doing a really good job and you think people should hear what I have to say, sharing this video is the best thing you can do. But don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And let's read this story. Sheriff Dave Wedding pledges allegiance to Republican Party, rips Democrats on way out. Now, let me clarify a couple of things, because you may be asking yourself, you may be asking me, Tim, why does it matter if a small town sheriff is quitting the Democratic Party? Certainly, this one guy doesn't have a big influence on the party nationally. What you need to understand is that if the bottom of the party breaks out, there's nothing supporting the higher level politicians. I don't think we're going to see a successful federal level Democrat if the grassroots level keeps getting ripped out. You see what I mean? There's a jurisdiction in Minnesota that CNN actually, they went down on the ground. Surprise! I'm surprised CNN actually did this. And they talked to people and found they were voting for Democrats locally, but were voting for Trump for president. And that to me says everything. If you have a local politician who is speaking to your cause and your issues, they'll support you. But at the top, they were supporting Donald Trump. That means Trump was getting support from Democrats. So think about what happens in the inverse. If you start getting all of the regular people across this country not particularly impactful at the national level, but they leave the party, then the Democrats are going to start losing key figures in getting senators and Congress people elected. You see what I mean? They're not going to have that same support. They're not going to have the interest. And you need sheriffs. You need people on your side. When you start losing the grassroots, well, then the whole plant is being ripped up. So let's read. Evansville, Indiana. Vanderburgh County Sheriff Dave Wedding officially declared himself a Republican on Thursday and accused his former party of endorsing flag burning, failing to acknowledge God, and not supporting police. Elected twice as a Democratic candidate, Wedding spoke to a large gathering of Republican officials and activists on the front lawn of American Patriot Group, a company led by major GOP donor Steve Chancellor. Wedding is constitutionally limited to 2 terms as sheriff. His final term ends 2022. He made no mention of future political plans in his speech. In an interview after his speech, he said he's keeping options open, but has no specific intention this time. Wedding, after being praised by Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch as a dedicated lawman who exemplifies Republican principles and values, began his speech by noticing the massive U.S. flag flapping in the breeze above him. Democrats want to burn that thing every day, Wedding said. I can't tolerate that. Burning our flag, the symbol of our country, the greatest country in the world. Hear, hear, good sir. I completely agree. Now, I shouldn't say completely. I can tolerate flag burning. The burning of the American flag symbolizes the freedom it represents. Personally, I don't like it, but I like the freedom it represents, so I get it. So long as it's controlled and safe. I don't like the idea of people starting fires in the middle of the street. That's problematic, and cops will put it out if they do that. I would never burn the flag, nor would I want to be friends with someone who probably enthusiastically would. That seems a little extreme for me, but I recognize the right to express yourself in such a way. But anyway, it's interesting to hear from a Democratic sheriff saying, no way, no way. Wedding then recognized his parish pastor in the crowd. The left wing, you can't say God. They can't say God in the Pledge of Allegiance. What is wrong with that? It's ridiculous. I sit and I watch and say, how could I even be a part of idiots like that? He went on. I'm tired of seeing fire set in our streets. I'm tired of people defying God, our church, our police, our government, and everything we stand for. You hardworking people that have worked from the time you were young until now to be successful individuals. And they want to get on you for being successful. I don't believe in that. I believe most of my Republican friends are hardworking individuals that believe in our country. And I believe in our country and in Evansville, Indiana. Wedding praised Mayor Lloyd Winnick, standing behind him, as well as Chancellor, who Wedding said supported his campaigns for sheriff despite being a Democratic candidate. Wedding mentioned the civil unrest in major U.S. cities, and he said defunding police always seemed to be a theme of the left-wing liberals. He said they can't say God. They can't. Remember that gaffe? I mentioned this before. Remember that gaffe where Joe Biden said, you know, we're all created by go, you know, the thing we say. A bunch of people said he doesn't even remember the word God. He can't even remember. Well, hold on. He said go. You know why? He wanted to say God, but he knew the Democratic Party would not entertain that at all. They would be put off by it. So he said, we're all created equally under go. You know the thing we say. No, I don't say it. That's right. You can't. Now, the DNC did say under God in the pledge when they opened up every night, but there were a couple caucuses where they omitted that. And I think several people noted under God was added in like the 50s for some, because of the Cold War and stuff like that. The point is, they did. The media immediately ran out and claimed Trump was lying when he pointed it out, but that actually happened. But let's not rehash things. I want to show you the facts. Here's Axios. They say Trump won Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, Arizona, and Iowa in 2016, blah, blah, blah. The voter registration gap between Democrats and Republicans has narrowed in some of these key states, according to Trump Victory and Axios reviews of those state records. There's the facts. A lot of it has to do with voters switching parties or dropping out of the electorate, not necessarily a surge of new voters registering as Republicans, nor indicating new Trump voters, according to Dave Wasserman of the Cook Political Report. There it is. Axios straight up saying people are switching parties. Now, this is regular voters, not just elected officials, but of course, I got you some elected officials. Check this out. From Chicago Tribune, Hobart mayor switches political parties. Snedeker, now a Republican, August 13th. Amazing. And guess what he said? The left has gone too far left. The Democrats are embracing this far left ideology. He's right. I feel the same way. All of these people stood up and announced they would switch to the Republican Party well before I said I would vote for Trump. I don't consider myself to be a Republican nor a conservative, nor would I ever want to register as any political party, but I'll definitely vote for Trump. I particularly don't like the current slate of Republican politicians. There's a small handful, like Rand Paul's cool, Matt Gaetz is cool, Dan Crenshaw's pretty cool, Josh Hawley. There's a handful I could name. More than I can for the Democrats, to be completely honest. I don't even know if I could name any Democrats. I'd say something like Tulsi, but she's leaving, I guess. So I guess we're looking at a new wave of Republicans who believe in what used to be, or what liberals used to believe in. But the left has gone nuts. Defund the police? Well, now you're losing small town mayors. Hobart is a small town in Indiana. It's like Chicago Metro. So it would be like hearing, well, there's no point using an analogy for any other city, because if you don't live there, what's the point of saying a city you don't live in? Anyway, the issue is you've got from the small towns, the Democratic Party is losing their core. They're losing any foothold in these small town places. More importantly, the Iron Range had 6 cities. Their mayors endorsed Donald Trump. What that says to me is that the heart and soul of this country, the heartland, the bulk of this country, the small town individuals, the hardworking individuals, they see that the Democrats have gone nuts. And it's actually very telling. Urban centers do not represent the majority of this country. But these big urban centers where most of the rioting occurs, where the politicians are feckless and allowing it to happen, they embrace this far left absurd ideology. I'll tell you what, you go to these small towns and you will find people do not believe in any of that. And you know how you can just easily understand that's the case? Because they're quitting the Democratic Party. They look up at the national level and say, what is the Democratic Party doing federally? Negotiating with extremists who are burning our flag in the streets. That is something I think we can tolerate, but not accept. You know what I mean? What I mean by that is, if I'm going to be putting together a group of individuals for any kind of task or objective, I don't want crazies who go around burning the flag and screaming. I'm sorry. Now, there's some circumstances, I guess, if you're a libertarian and you're like, I'm going to burn the flag if I want, and I understand your point of view in that regard. I'm all about, freedom and liberty, so I can respect that. But I don't want these anti-America types, right? They don't either. So the small town Democrats, they're leaving. Check it out. I'm not even done. Look at this. Here's another story. Republican Party attracts another Lake County elected official. Only a week later, this guy was apparently, they say, Lowell Town Council President Mike Gruska, twice elected as a Democrat, on Monday announced his decision to change parties. I mean, here it is, man. Listen, these are just individual stories. And when I look at the data, we can see what Axios says, that Republicans are closing the gap because they're attracting more people, from the Democratic Party. It may be marginal. It may not be the biggest thing ever. But when you combine this with everything we've seen, it's just grains of sand being added to that heap. Remember all those C-SPAN callers who kept calling in saying, I'm quitting the Democrats? They've gone nuts. Look at what's happening in Minneapolis. They're disbanding the police. What regular person wants to live without cops? Even when these extremists, okay, you see that video the other day where the guy in Portland throws a Molotov and then some dude gets hit and he's running and his feet are on fire. The cops come to help him and they let the cops do it. What happens when violence breaks out and these far leftists get attacked? They go, quick, call the police. Everybody wants police to be there. It is great to have a neutral arbiter who can come and enforce the law. Now, they're not perfect, and there's problems sometimes when you call cops. But think about how great it is. You're having a dispute with someone. It's like you've got someone to call who can sort of referee the situation and stop those who are breaking the law. It doesn't always work out perfectly, but what does? Now the far left is just going nuts, and small towns are saying, no thanks. Now, I think the media is full of it, to be completely honest. And what I mean by that is there are elements within mainstream media that are just in the bag for Joe Biden. The Democrats are going to lie, say whatever they have to say. So I don't believe these polls. I know it's hard to understand. Sometimes the polls look good, and I'm just sick of it. I see this poll came out where apparently like Joe Biden is now complaining that he's down in Michigan asking for money, fundraising. And that'll motivate people, it will. But I'm just like, dude, you can find a poll for anything. Almost all of the polls say that Joe Biden is winning in Michigan. And Biden comes out. I don't know if I have the tweet pulled up. No, I don't. Joe Biden comes out and he's like, we're down in Michigan. Quick, give us money. Yeah, dude, all the polls have you up. The media's got your back. Come on. But one poll comes out and he uses it to fundraise. Well, you know what? It's smart. Good for him. We see stories like this over and over. Check this out. This is from the Alabama Political Reporter. I don't know what this is. Many of these papers are small town papers. Butler County Circuit Clerk switches to Republican Party. Oh, surprise, surprise. I mean, that's Alabama, though, so what do you expect? Here's another one. Louisiana sheriffs stand with Donald Trump in first presidential endorsement in their history. Woo! Getting spicy out here. Hey, what else do we got? From the Salisbury Post, D.G. Martin. We didn't leave the party. It left us. Hear, good sir. Absolutely. Even earlier this year and last year when I was actively supporting these Democrats, enthusiastically like, woohoo, Yang and Tulsi. And then what happened? I think Tulsi's done a really good job. I don't agree with all her policies, but I could see that she was trying as hard as possible to, pull the left and the right and hold them to stop them from splitting off and going in other directions. She had policy positions I didn't agree with, but she was more than willing to talk to Republicans and try and be some kind of bridge. And we desperately needed that. And of course, the Democratic Party wouldn't have any of that. So they just, burned that bridge right up. Yang, on the other hand, just went straight to CNN and just went right in line with endorsing a lot of these tribalists and everything like that. And I was just like, okay, whatever, man. There's no, it's funny. They say that I'm actively supporting Trump or whatever and stuff like that. Well, I'm going to vote for him. There's a lot of things about him that I would never support. I don't like the way he speaks and the things he said in the past, but I do believe we don't really have an option this time. And I mean it. I mean, you look at Joe Biden negotiating with these extremists, and I'm just like, okay, you finally got me off the fence. Normally, I was saying this, I will never vote for the lesser of two evils. To be honest, I think Trump has done enough good to where I'm like, I'll go vote for the guy. The left, on the other hand, has gone so insane, and we can see it over and over. This is important. What I'm showing you from like the Salisbury Post and these local papers is showing you that outside of the Politico Beltway, this bubble world where these journalists live and they're like, actually, Joe Biden is favored by most people. No, go talk to people. New York Times did it. They went to Kenosha. What did they find? People were like, why is my city burning down? And why won't the Democrats do anything about it? Then you look at these cities, these small towns. The sheriffs are quitting. The councilmen are quitting. I did a story about a state level politician in Pennsylvania who this was like earlier in the year, quit the Democrats, went independent, and is caucusing with Republicans. There were tons of other stories where a bunch of city councilmen switched parties. I keep seeing these things. Now, normally when I see these stories, I'm not like, I'll do a video talking about the sheriff because the sheriff is so important to the world. I'm like, it's local news and local affairs. But I got to a point where I'm seeing I don't know if you saw the video, the Walk Away campaign. They got attacked by Black Lives Matter. And I see all these stories and I'm like, maybe it's time we start highlighting how regular people in this country feel. Obviously not everyone and not everywhere. But I tell you, man, when you hear the same thing over and over again, how many times in the past month? Now look what's happening. I don't know if you've been following the news, but apparently now you name the important voting bloc Trump has won over, and a quote comes out where Trump disparaged them in a really dumb way. Like apparently Michael Cohen is now saying that Trump disparaged Mexicans or something. It's like calling them stupid. Shut up, dude. We get it. We're less than 2 months out now or whatever. We're about, less than 2 months out now from the election. Trump is doing really well among Latinos and really well among the black community. And now all of a sudden, you name the group. Trump calls military vets dumb. He calls these select groups dumb. He calls his own supporters dumb. I don't care. I don't believe you, media. I don't. I don't even know. I don't even necessarily believe the polls showing Trump doing well. I have no idea what's going to happen. But I can see this. This is really amazing. He goes on to say, look at this. Back in 1984, when I was running for Congress, I ran into older people who explained why they could not support me, saying I didn't leave the Democratic Party, it left me. Even in those days, the Democratic Party still had many conservatives who were loyal adherents. They had grown up in the times when the Democratic Party was more conservative than the other party. Some of those older Democrats were slow to give up their heritage and break away from the group in which they grew up. But the support in the Democratic Party for school desegregation, voting rights, civil rights, equal treatment in the workplace, and expanding the role of government in providing public resources to meet the need of the poor and underserved communities were viewed with skepticism by once loyal Democrats. Yeah, because the Democrats used to be the party of, well, I guess racism, to say the least. Anyway, I'll give you the gist of it. Back in 1984, people were saying the same thing. What happened back then? Well, not in 1984, but we actually no. Was it 1984? Well, we had Reagan. He ended up winning a massive sweep. I thought that was 88. I could be wrong. No, I think 88 was H.W. Bush. Anyway, I don't have the dates pulled up. I should remember these things considering I literally covered it just a couple days ago. But I've got too much to show you. It's gonna be a little long segment. We've got to move on. Why I'm leaving the Democratic Party from the Tribune Chronicle. This is from April 12th. Wow. And then we have something really interesting here. Black voters grow frustrated with Democratic Party. This is a really interesting story because it's another Indiana source. And they say that black voters actually view the Democrats as racist. Look at this. But like so many black people, Wills grew up in a home that supports and votes Democrats. She still votes for Democrats for the most part, though she also has a strong criticism of the party at both a local and national level, saying, I feel like for so long, the Democratic Party has just kind of banked on the fact that we're not Republicans kind of thing. And that's just getting really old. This kind of discontent appears to be more common. And Larison's appointment has been a rallying point. Now, I don't know about Larison or, what the local political issue is. I just thought the general idea was interesting. They go on to mention that they don't, this pollster doesn't see that they're going to be moving away. But this is an interesting quote right here. Moving away from the Democrats, I mean. Most black people believe the Democratic Party is largely racist, Joyce said. But that doesn't mean there's an automatic home in the Republican Party, which she said doesn't even allow conversations about racism, for example, to move forward because they're stuck on debating whether racism is even real. I found that interesting. You know why? There was a post by someone about how in New York, the black community is straight up saying they're either voting for Trump or not voting, but the GOP is doing nothing to reach out to them. That's crazy to me. You can see it right here. They're tired of the Democratic Party. Now, of course, we have people like Billy Prempe and Kimberly Klacik who are black conservatives running for Congress, who are saying straight up, let's go in these communities. Let's talk about why we need some political competition. That's my phrase, not theirs. But I think it's a good move. It's a smart move because even if they don't win, they still win in the sense it's a strategic victory. You've got people who are saying we've been underserved for too long. The Democrats aren't helping us out. Well, the GOP needs to do something. The GOP needs to come in and actually address these issues. But I'm laughing now because I know what's coming next. Look at this. I'm just going to jump down to the most important part of this poll. Trust for information about the virus, national registered voters. In March, 46% of people trusted Trump and only 45% trusted the media. Now, ain't that something? But take a look at this now. 40% trust Trump, 35% trust the media. More importantly, the CDC is now down to 54%, and your governor is now down to 55 from 69. People don't trust any of this anymore. So I got no idea what's going on, but I'll tell you this. When the media comes out and Trump says naughty words and all that stuff, I'm not buying it. I don't believe it. I don't believe the media. I think this actually accurately represents my view of everything. Think about it this way. 35% of the time, I do trust the media. I think it's a fair number. I look at these sources, I fact check them, and I'm very skeptical of sources I can't vet. But about a third of the time, the information seems to be good so long as I can vet it. Now, Donald Trump, about 40% of the time, that actually makes sense. I have never been a big fan of the guy, and about 40%. So I trust Trump. I really do, more than I trust the press, for sure. But look, Trump came out the other day saying, I never called John McCain a loser. He did. So Trump does these things, but come on. So does literally every other politician and president and whatever. So I don't care for, if Trump's being Trump. I don't. I'm going to fact check. I'm going to verify. And if he does something I don't like, I'll say it. And if he does something I do like, I'll definitely say it. And he's done some things that I've liked, so I'll take it for what it is. The CDC, I actually think this number represents like the likelihood for me to actually, to believe what's being said. Now, to be fair, though, your governor, no way. 0%. I don't trust my governor. I live in New Jersey at all. I think the dude's lying. The reason I highlight this, though, is just to show you that the media, nobody trusts anymore. All right. And that means people are starting to find out for themselves what's really going on. So all of these smear pieces that are coming out, I just don't buy it. But I want to leave with one very important thing. Donald Trump at 40%. Take a look at this video from Joe Biden saying, be a patriot, wear a mask. He's literally not wearing a mask while he's giving a speech at a lectern. This says something. Either Joe Biden is giving a speech to a room full of people where he looks around and talks to them, and he's a hypocrite for not wearing a mask, or there's nobody in the room and it's a fake speech. I don't care for that. Now, I understand the RNC had, people walk to the podium and talk, but they talk to the camera. This is just plastic. And I'll tell you what, Donald Trump is authentic, lies and all. So we'll see how this plays out. But I'll tell you this right now. The Democrats and the media are working together in many ways. And when I say the media, I mean they're allies at major news corporations that keep saying peaceful protest, that downplay what's happening, or just overtly collude with the campaign like we saw in 2016. I don't care for it. So I'm out. I didn't leave the party. They left me. I've been sitting here begging for help because I have family in some of these areas affected by the riots. I have friends in areas affected by the riots. And the Democrats just spit in my face saying it's a myth. Shut your mouth. But Donald Trump walked up and said, don't worry, law and order. We're going to send in the best. Everybody agrees. We're going to shut down these violent rioters. And I was like, all right, thanks, man. These guys just told me to F off. I'm not interested. But look, these are a lot of small stories. It's really hard to map what's actually happening. But I believe, based on what we keep seeing over and over again, from the small towns to the highest levels, people are leaving the Democratic Party. And that just seems to be a real phenomenon. But we'll see how things play out, because this mail-in voting thing is busted. I'll tell you that. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastNews. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.